And we're
Sweet.
live. We did it.
All
Hey,
right.
wanna chime us in?
Cool. All right. Yeah, sure. Welcome to episode 6 of the Heart to Heart podcast with co-host Maddie and other co-host Kyle, and then we have some very exciting guests for you today. Over here we have Courtney and,
Hello.
and Kendra.
Hi.
Today we're going to be talking about another family-related podcast. Um, and we're just kind of going to go from there. I know it's been a little bit since we have done another episode, but should be fun. And we'll see how this guest thing goes today. So,
First guests.
yeah, first
Proud to be
guest.
here.
I'm honored. Thank you for being here. So, go for it.
Okay, cool. So these are actually my sisters. We met about 5 years ago. So I'm gonna introduce y'all to my sisters. They're gonna talk a little bit about themselves, who they are, and then we'll kind of just talk about how we found out about each other and that whole crazy ass story. So we all share the same father. They grew up with our biological father their whole lives. And I didn't know about them till I was about 14. So they're going to share their side a little bit and then we'll come together. Sound good? All right.
So I'm Courtney. I am the middle sister, oldest out of us two. And like Madison said, we were raised together. We had the same parents, same house most of our childhood. And yeah, we didn't know Maddie existed until I was almost an adult. Or I was an adult anyway.
Well,
We weren't even, she had, like she said, she didn't know we existed until she was 14. At that time, I would have been 7. So we weren't even told about her until I was 18, almost 19. And you were 16, probably. But yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Kendra. I'm the youngest sister. So I was 16 when I met Maddie. Um, it was weird because we always would joke about we felt like we had another sibling. Um, so then the day like when we got told it, uh, it like shocked me, but I also was like, I knew it at the same time.
You felt it in your soul.
Yeah.
You're like, I fucking do
But
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been good since meeting Maddie. You've filled the role of like not only my sister, but like friend, and then also like a mother figure. So yeah,
I love that. I kind of had the same experience too. I always like growing up, I felt like something was missing. Like I thought I was adopted for a majority of my life. Turns out like I wasn't adopted, but I did have a biological father out there. So, and then shortly after I found that out, I was about 11 or 12. I found out I had sisters, and I was like, "Oh hell no!" I was like, "I want to meet." I was so adamant at 14. I was like, "I need to meet them. Not I'm gonna find them," and I was like so gung ho on it. And I was supposed to meet you guys when I was 14, but some, interfamily conflict. I was fucking raging pissed. But I knew about you guys for a very long time. So I didn't meet you guys till what, my mid 20s.
Mhm.
So with about 10 years of waiting to meet you guys, a decade knowing about you guys, not knowing what you looked like, but just wondering where you guys were and what your life was like and what kind of people you were. So I think the internet should know what kind of people you guys are. If you want to share a little bit about your individual selves, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Well, first, that must be crazy to feel like you knew us before meeting us because we never even had that to be able to know you existed. Just for us to our whole lives live basically 2 towns away from each other in the same valley and know the same town where our upbringing was very different. Being that it was a well kept secret and we didn't even know, we thought our life was pretty straightforward. And I feel like a main theme that has affected me through this journey with you is growing up until that point. I definitely idolized our parents. I saw them as doing no wrong and I saw them as like military or police and everything they do is law and true. And to grow up and mature and realize our parents were once young too. They have had poor judgment at times or regrets, and meeting you was also kind of reaffirmed in me to like be more forgiving of people, especially when it comes to like our father. It just really helped my perspective with things. It was definitely a turning point for me, and I carry that with me today in terms of, you know, being more forgiving on people and how life choices can change not only your lives but whatever children you have or whatever comes after. So that was a big thing for me.
So you kind of had like um, a very perfect view of your parents growing up, and then you saw them as human in a way and
Mhm.
making mistakes, and kind of looking at that and hoping that forgiveness in a way for not letting or being like, hey, this is what's up. But
Absolutely. It was
yeah.
definitely a sense of being naive up until meeting Maddie.
Hmm.
And it's been like a good wake up in a sense. It wasn't like a harsh reality. It was like kind of a beautiful reality where when you try to make everything seem perfect, you set yourself up for more disappointment, if that makes
Right. Well, that's kind of
sense.
the
No need
cool.
pictures.
No, it's cool. I like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're great. I
Okay.
like it. It's kind of cool because it's like we all have this like view of perfection or the way that we're supposed to be or supposed to act, and that's not always the case. Like we always have to remember that we're human and we make mistakes and we fuck up, and just making sure that you don't hold on to those things for very long and you just let them go and forgive yourself and move on, learn from it, and go from there. So that's cool. Yeah.
So I agree with what Courtney said, but I think I also saw this as like how she said it took away like the image that our parents like make no mistakes. Because at first like I was mad, especially after I met you, because I was like, and I know everything happens, when it's meant to, sort of thing. You came in my life like when I was a certain age, but I also was just more mad at the fact that they kept it a secret so well. Like, it made me think, what other secrets could people in my life? And I think other people can do this when they see their parents make big, like, secrets or hide things from their children. It causes like trust issues within interpersonal relationships. And it made me like question everything I think my parents had told me about like our family. Can I trust this or that? Um, so I'm glad the truth finally got out. Um, and I agree with what Courtney said, how it was kind of like a beautiful like growing thing, but it also kind of opened my eyes in the sense, even like you just have to place your trust in certain people, and those closest to you still can be human and hide things, and you just have to take it as it comes, I
Mhm.
guess. But yeah, I
Sure.
definitely.
I get that a lot because I felt the same way when I found out I had a half brother growing up. And my dad and my mom both knew, and I didn't find out till I was 21. My half brother actually contacted me on Facebook and was like, hey, is your dad so and so? I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'm your half brother. I was like, what? No way. And I remember texting my dad and being like, yo, do I have a half brother? And he didn't reply. And I was up all night like thinking like, what the hell? How could he do this to me? How could he not tell me? We just went to Mexico, and we were just like, it was just after that time in my life where I had like rebelled and like left the home, and then we had finally had a better relationship, and so we were like getting a lot closer and doing a lot more stuff. And then I find this out, and I was like, oh really? But yeah, kind of like what you were saying is like once I like thought about it for a while, I was like, oh, he's probably like really, either shameful or like once I try to see it from his perspective and really like their generation where it's very, very traditional, and like having a kid out of wedlock is a very, you know, not so good thing or something where it's like, yeah. So that's what kind of helped me with it a little bit because I was like, oh, he was probably like really embarrassed or didn't know what to say or how to say it or how to communicate that. And with him not being, in his life, he just kind of felt like it would just kind of go away, or maybe he just didn't think it was that big of a deal to tell us, which, you know what I mean, is kind of fucked up because I would have loved to grown up with a brother, you know what I mean, and I'm sure you guys would have loved to grown up with each other,
Mhm.
with Maddie, you didn't know about them for so long, and yeah, it's kind of crazy. So
Yeah, my experience, I just remember feeling a lot of confusion and anger. I was angry for a very long time. And I did have all those thoughts of like, why the fuck, like they hiding this from me? The trust issues. I felt betrayed. And I felt like I did miss out on growing up with sisters. But also, as you guys mentioned too, like everything happens for a reason. Because I look at my own life growing up, and if you guys were in my life at certain points in my life when I was younger, it would have been a totally different outcome. Um, I've been pretty open about like my addiction history and drug use in the past. So around the time, a couple years before I even met you guys, I was using heavy drugs and I wasn't a good person. I was not a role model whatsoever. This is before I became a mother as well, which changed me insurmountably as well. But when I was younger, just feeling a part of you empty for so long, it takes a toll on you. And then not knowing what that emptiness is, it's just lost in confusion for sure. Um, and yes, there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of anger, especially directed towards our dad, because not only I felt like this person, withheld this information from me, so I was mad at my mom too because she withheld the information from me too. But like the feelings of like, why didn't you want me? you know? And it was nothing ever directed at you guys. I didn't even know who you guys were, but it was like, okay, well, he can go have another family, and I'm just forgotten. So I knew the story, like what happened. I was a one night stand baby. It was, uh, a one and doneer. So now that I'm older, I look back, I have more empathy, or more understanding of that mindset. You're in your early 20s, you're at a party, you hook up with somebody, they call you a month later and they're like, hey, I'm pregnant, and in that time in your life, because I'm 30 now, I remember being in my early 20s and I'm like, yeah, I became a parent, but I'm like, I'm figuring out who the fuck I am in my life, like going forward. And usually around that time, for people, it's like they're making big life changes. They're moving, they're going to school, they're just setting up their life, figuring out who they truly are. And now I understand that, and our dad and I have had our talks, and we have a really good relationship now. I'm very grateful for it. And he's a great person. And I see the way that he talks about you guys and like the mistakes he's made with you guys, as a father and him as a person and as a man, and I respect him for that. So it was a lot of healing. It was very healing at the end of it. With pain, there's healing if you allow it, and there's growth in that. So I'm grateful for the time frame that we did meet, because when I first met you guys, it just felt like that empty missing piece just came into full formation. It was like I had my son and I met you too, and it was like this triangle like fulfillment, and I'm like, my soul. Yeah, very healing. So, yeah.
I think one thing I'm proud of you for overcoming, especially with our dad, that I don't even know if I would have been able to do in your shoes is, like you said, coming to terms with realizing it wasn't a situation of he didn't want you or like who you are or he didn't like you. It was like he saw at the time as such a situation that he couldn't handle. It wasn't this time. And I think for him, like a huge theme is like hindsight and realizing he now sees the grown woman you are and who you've become and all that time he was not in your life. And I know he probably deals with a lot of guilt and remorse because now that he sees like who you are, I think that hindsight is what plays a huge role in realizing if at the time when he was confronted about the situation, if he had a glimpse into who you were going to turn out to be, who you are, I'm sure his decision would have been different. But dealing with that now, like you yourself, I feel it's. I'm just really proud that you have come to terms with it. It wasn't a any kind of rejection towards you and who you are. And it would be hard to internalize that, but I think that's why you guys have a good relationship now, and he is able to be vulnerable with you about his mistakes and what he's working on now. And I'm just glad there isn't too much, if any, lingering kind of like blame, or you don't, you, from what I've seen and what he expresses, you don't hold anything against him now, and that is truly beautiful on both ends.
Forgiveness and love,
Mhm.
healing. Moving on. Well, yeah, and sometimes, not saying this particular situation, but it's also good to keep in mind, like, sometimes you have to forgive somebody, not because of what they did or did to you, but you got to forgive them so you can let it go and heal yourself and move on with your life and be happy and not let it negatively affect you or break you down, even if it was not your fault at all or you were victimized from it. That's the whole, I think, the beauty of forgiveness. It's for you. So
Mhm.
that was a big thing for me, for sure. But yeah, what do you guys want to share about yourselves? Anything crazy? Anything interesting about you guys? I know you guys are.
Do you want to update on what you've been up to, how the experience has fueled? I think Kendra has some. She's grown a lot of confidence, definitely in the years since we've been introduced to Maddie. I mean, from personal experience, I can attest as well that it's a different level than like having a best friend hype you up or talk you up and build you up. It's a different type of confidence boost and trust when it is blood. And Kendra and I have forever had each other to bounce off in that sense. But like Maddie said, to have like the full trinity completed, it's definitely like a force to be reckoned with. I think you should share a bit about where you've taken that kind of energy you've harnessed and how you've started to build your own life off of it.
Yeah, because I've had separate experiences with you guys each. So maybe we can talk about like separate experiences we've had together and then your own experiences going forward with that, doing your own thing.
So yeah, when I first started like seeing Maddie, I was in high school, and I still was obviously like very unsure of who I was. I seemed to stress out about like minuscule things and like not really see like bigger picture. And hanging out with Maddie, um, and like her friends, it was always such like a nice relieving feeling, being like, I'm gonna be okay. What Maddie's gone through, she's okay, sort of thing. Um, so lately, like we grew up in smallish city town, not like a huge city. But this last year, I moved to London, and it was a big step for me because I don't like I went by myself, um, and they both were like hyping me up, and saying like I can do this. But I just know, since they're both like my older sisters, like I know what Courtney was doing when she was 20. Um, I know like what Maddie's gone through, and it kind of just gave me peace. Like I can do this because I know what they've gone through. So like I'm doing this, but then in the back of my mind, I like kept their spirit and like energy within me, even though I was like across the world. But even though they weren't like physically present, they were like there with like my decision making. And like I said, like they've both kind of taken on the role of like best friend, but also sister, and then even like that motherly, like Kendra, what are you doing, sort of thing. But yeah, it's definitely been like good to reconnect with them because I've come home for a bit. But yeah.
It's cool. Is there any specific point in your guys' life where you felt like a really big change? Like besides obviously meeting Maddie, was there like a story or a singular like point where it was like a really big learning lesson for you?
There were many occasions where, I mean, even still, I'd say Maddie's house is one of our safe spaces. where we can be vulnerable. And I mean, there are many instances, but like where we would go literally to seek like refuge from whatever
Counseling.
emotional no, and
Yeah.
it would feel like all that emotional like dig up, good and bad. I just know anytime I would leave Maddie's, I'd feel much more refreshed and energized and like empowered than when I would show up there. And for me, it was she has a lot of wisdom from experience in her own life and dealing with hundreds of people in her field. And kind of passing on that knowledge and insight helped me because with my emotions and stuff, I feel like education is usually one of the best things that help me kind of rationalize things and compartmentalize. And I just remember loving like going over, hang out with you and your friends and just gain different perspectives from people I never would have met without you. And all that being in a safe place that feels like home. And it's just a very nice feeling. And even still to this day, if I ever have to like put myself mentally into a safe place in a safe environment, that's like the setting I have, and hopefully it continues to be that way. But yeah, I just loved all the times we'd go over and have like deep talks because even with friends, that isn't always the vibe. But I like how easily we can slip into it with you. It's always been that way.
Yeah. I'll agree. You're good conversation.
Oh, thank you. I'm on the podcast.
Mhm.
Okay, we can talk about when we met for the first time.
Mhm. In the lead up.
So, our grandmother, which is our father's mother, she passed away in like November 2018. And that was a pivotal time for me because I also grew up with the same set of grandparents you did. I just didn't know about you guys till I was 14 and that whole situation we touched on. But um, after she passed, I was like, I attempted to try to see you guys when I was a teenager. And at that point in my life, I was like, I'm a mother, I'm an adult, and it's time. I just felt it was time. So I messaged our father, I think on Facebook, and I was like, so this happened, right? You lost your mom, I lost my grandma. I was like, life's short. I was like, I think it's time for me to meet my sisters. And I think at that time, your parents were already divorced or finalizing
Freshly
that. Yeah.
within the year.
Yeah. So I was just like, there's nothing else. There's no other reason blocking that from happening. And I think this is the perfect time to do so. And he actually agreed with me. And I remember when he told me that, I just burst into tears of joy and like relief and like finally, um, waiting for, 10 years. So we planned that out. He wanted to wait till after the holidays, which made sense. And we all met, in Eagle Meridian, Moxie Java. Yeah, Moxie Java in 2019, like February. And I remember being so nervous. I didn't know what to expect, I wasn't trying to assume anything, but I just, I barely knew my dad at the time too. So I was thinking like, oh my God, they grew up in Eagle Meridian. Me being little judgy, I was like, oh my God, they better not be stuck up. I'm gonna be so mad. I was like, I want cool sisters, And I was so pleasantly surprised because when you guys walked in, it's always awkward. It's like, hey guys, came from the same ball sack. Like it's like fuck. So when I met you guys, I think I remember I was coming out of the bathroom and you guys came in with dad and we're just like introducing and we were all kind of quiet and shy. Like fuck, I don't know what to say or do. But I was just like, I was so happy. Like and so we just started talking and I think we initially started talking about like what spirits, astrology, just like music, stuff like that. And as we got deeper into conversation, I was like, "Oh my fucking god, these girls are like little younger mini versions of me." Like that was one of the first initial like thoughts during the conversation that I had. I was like, "This is fucking awesome." I was so happy. And I could see on dad's face too. He was like really happy with how the vibe was going in the conversation, and the chemistry flowing and, in the conversation. So um it was so cool. But I remember leaving the coffee shop and I was just so fucking happy. smiling ear. I called my mom, I called my grandma, I called my best friend, I called all my friends, like I called everybody that's close in my life, and I was just like, dude, I just met my fucking sisters, like fucking crazy. I feel like I've known it my whole life. Like I've had dreams about you guys, like, and just all these weird, connections and like connotations started coming together, and I started remembering things that I dreamt about when I was a kid and things I thought about when I was younger, and I was like, holy shit. So it was really cool. What was your guys' experience and perspective on meeting for the first time?
Well, if I remember right, the way we were told, like, to plan the meeting, Dad sat us down and he's like, I have to tell you guys something.
Okay.
Kendra was post surgery. She was on meds. She's kind of out of it. Nothing probably felt real to her anyway. I just remember being like, this must be serious. And he said, you guys have a sister. And my first reaction was, he just got a girl pregnant or something. Like they're freshly divorced. My brain could not compute anything in his life before him meeting our mother. So for him to be like, tell us this, he told us the story loosely, of course. Back then, he
Mhm.
didn't want to tell us everything, but it kind of blew our mind because I was like this, trying to fill in the pieces and do the math and like realizing like it was enough of a shock to think we had another sister, but then to realize she has existed our whole existence, and that was a trip to think about. And I even said like, is she alive now? Where is she? And he's like, Namba. I'm like, what the fuck? She's been forever? I go through there. How have I not met her? And so I just remember it was at first like disbelief. And then, kind of like Kendra mentioned, there was this sense of like, it felt like I was robbed of like in my past, like, wait, we could have had another sister this whole time. Then what? And then, of course, as more and more of the story got out, even before meeting you, of like, the obstacles or the reasons why we had been prevented to meet you based on just, that our mother wanting to create what her idea was of the perfect family. And she cared a lot about social image, and like she didn't want to deal with someone else's kids. And that alone carried out through their marriage for those 20 something years. And that was like the huge hurdle on why that secret was so well kept. So for it all to like dissolve away, my parents to get out of their toxic marriage, we have a new person in our lives. Like I think for Dad too, like you said, around that time, his mom had passed away. 6 years before that, his only sister had passed away. So for him to lose two very strong, influential women in his life, I know it was cathartic and healing for him to receive one strong, powerful woman back. And I know he values you now. But yeah, it was quite a roller coaster. And I know emotions are more settled now and there isn't any hate or anything like that. But it was definitely, it felt like a scene in a movie, like the reveal of like, I have news. You're going to want to sit down for this. It was definitely a story to tell.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so like Courtney said, he like sat us down, and I had just come out of surgery, so I was on like the post like meds for surgery or
Coming
whatever.
off the anesthesia
Yeah,
on pain
so
meds.
I
Yeah.
literally already was like out of it. So I don't know why he chose that day, but
Great timing.
like he was like, I have something big to tell you. And before he even said another kid, I was like, 'cause it was he just got freshly divorced. I was like,
What now?
did he get someone pregnant? Like, am I gonna have like a little brother? Or like a little like I was like, oh
What's
my
happening?
god, because my obviously mine was like racing because I was just post surgery. And then he was like, you have a sister, and I just was like, but then when he said older, I was like,
How much older?
so I was like thinking like, are they in England? Like, do I have a British sister? um, but yeah, I felt like, and then there's like weeks leading up to meeting you. I just was like, so everything seemed unreal. because like the my parents splitting up, I think I was staying at my mom's for majority of the time because of school. So I just was like stuck with her in her world. But then when I was out of it, I was told about a whole nother person. And then when I met you, I think it like really hit me. And like when you said you talked about like all of your son, um, I just was like, you've had a whole life, and I just wanted to like catch up, like get up to speed, because yeah,
Well, I'm glad he missed out on some of it because I don't know. I think because I'm the oldest, I think there's a natural role to play as the oldest because I have a little brother too. So I grew up the oldest as well. There's like a role you have to play or you naturally come into of like you got to be a role model. You get experience all the parent fuck ups. You get all the first experience stuff in most family systems and dynamics. So there's like a responsibility there. At least I took that on. As well, and then there is, like, a maternal role too, especially with, like, how we met and everything you guys had going on with your parents as well. I didn't feel like I needed to, it just kinda naturally unfolded that way. I was like, "I need to be here for these girls, and I want to. I most definitely want to, and I forever will, obviously." But it kinda for me you guys weren't just my sisters either. You guys were like my soul. You guys were like in a weird way. It sounds weird to say, but you guys were like my daughters too, in a sense. I don't claim the mom title. I didn't birth you. I have a kid of my own, but yeah, that maternal, like oldest sibling, kind of like responsibility and naturality to be that way, to protect you guys, to be there for you guys when you need it, to have you guys experience your own shit, but have a safe place to come back and talk about it and process it and not go through shit alone or feel like you have to go through it alone or you can't talk about it. Because I grew up feeling alone a lot. I didn't really have anybody to talk to as far as like siblings or family. Because one, I didn't feel I could. And two, like just my brother and I always bumped heads. We didn't have that closeness. And it's different with like a sister, having a sister. It wasn't until I was like 16, I had my foster sister. I felt like that. But being the oldest in that situation, it's like, yeah, it was healing for me, and I'm glad I got to be there through your guys' hardships and your successes and your good moments and your first time experiences with stuff and relationship stuff and just young people shit, stupid shit that we do. So, and make sure you guys are safe and, you know, protected and not ending up dead in a ditch somewhere or, you know what I mean, or hurt too bad. So,
Yeah, that was definitely huge because, like I mentioned earlier, was we saw our parents as this unbreakable force. They were the police to us. They were like that kind of authoritarian type. Whereas with you, we still had that like maternal feel, minus all of minus any coldness or like you did work really hard to maintain a safe space for us, and like you said, you did help us through a lot of relationship issues that even if we wanted to go to our parents for, they probably wouldn't have the best advice. Whereas you had freshly lived through it, like you were coming out of your 20s as we're going into them, and like we're just getting into this shit, and she was in high school and stuff, and you were ready to like help us, genuinely help us, not just give basic cliche advice, because you were using your life experiences as kind of fuel to give motivation or advice or something. And I think that's why both of us have taken your advice much closer to heart than what anyone else would tell us to do or something. And we definitely all three have a lot of middle ground to go off of, and similarities and patterns and habits. So that's what kind of bonds us even closer together. And we kind of all learn the same mistakes and heal in similar ways. So it's really cool to see, even though we're all three on different paths, we kind of like take the same patterns in some ways.
I think that's really cool. Yeah, Maddie definitely gives some really good advice when it comes to relationship stuff. So she's or life stuff or pretty much anything. It's pretty cool. But you got a good heart, and I think that's what is really like cool. The most important thing too. It's like you can be friends with almost anybody with like good intentions because like you just have a really good heart and you're just there to help people and help bring people together and solve shit and solve problems, and so that's really cool. Um, yeah. So have you guys learned anything specific from Maddie since meeting her? I'm sure there's a lot.
You jumped a bit. Definitely confidence and self-esteem. Like I said, on a level much deeper than just that surface. Like love yourself. She's really great at being raw and vulnerable, which helps others do the same, and only then can true healing be done. Um, and most people who like put on a front or like act tough or whatever, they don't get nearly as close to as much like work and progress done as Maddie gets with people. I think that's why she thrives so well in the field she works in. And even just like I have other friends who are kind of in like mental health field and that, and they have good intentions, no hate to that, but there is this level of connection and empathy and compassion that Maddie has for people, whether they're a patient or a client or family or a friend, and that's the type of energy people love to kind of be around, and it's inspired me to want to be the same because up until meeting her, I was kind of more just kind of like nihilistic or cynical and didn't really care about others or have trust. But seeing the impact she has on other people makes me want to have a similar impact on others. So it's definitely, she has a contagious spirit in a good way.
I think something that Maddie's taught me is being able to like move on from things and like for like you were saying just earlier, like forgiveness is really like for yourself. Um, because we're all human, we all make mistakes. There's all things we wish we could even like regret doing or not doing. But it's like you've taught me like time will pass sort of thing, and the more you're like you forgive yourself, forgive like others, the more you're able to like heal and move on with your life. Because I mean, some of the stuff you've gone through, I don't know how you're like sitting here smiling, genuinely.
Fuck.
But but you are, and that's like anytime like I feel like I'm going through something, I'm like I'll be okay. Just have like that trust and like healing in yourself that you've kind of taught me. Um, I think yeah, just overall you've taught me like how to forgive myself and move on from things and not hold on to the negative shit in life. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Maddie, what have you learned from your sisters?
Great question. Okay. Oh my God. I did not expect this to turn into like, this is how you impacted my life, Madison. I was like, oh, we're just going to share some stories. Shit. Oh, my heart is full though. Thank you. I love you guys so much. I think what I learned from you guys, believe it or not, like the things that you're saying that I taught you are basically the same things that you've like reaffirmed in me or you've taught me in with dealing with certain people or situations that I have gone into that were new to me throughout the years since we met. So um, I think also you guys are not going to believe me, but you guys have taught me to be more patient too, and kinder to myself. If I'm going to preach these things to other people, I need to practice that. So, you guys definitely instilled in me to be kinder to myself. Like from what you guys are telling me, the way I've treated you guys and parented you guys, I needed to give myself the same. Um, you guys made me more motherly for sure. Obviously, my son is the sole reason I'm still here. He's the love of my life. He's everything to me. I love him unconditionally. I think, like I said, adding you two in the mix really made me more maternal, more motherly, more childlike, more empathetic to a child because it's I went from a drug addict to a mother. I didn't take any classes, I didn't read any fucking books. I just went right in, giving birth and becoming a mom, and that journey has been wonderful and hard in itself, just me and him going through life, but having you guys in the mix really was like, okay, they consider me a maternal figure too, like I'm doing something right. Because it's one thing when you have a child, they can't tell you or have this deep conversation. They're not in that developmental stage yet to have that conversation, let alone with their parent, let alone with the son, having that conversation. Because, most kids don't want to talk to their parents about shit anyway at any age. But um, it just kind of made me feel like, okay, I am a good mom, you know. So thank you for that. And then also meeting you guys really helped me forgive dad too. That was a big thing too. So like we had our conversations. I asked him hard questions that I've always wanted to ask. He gave me honest answers, and I respect that. But I think if I never had you guys in this situation, let's say you guys weren't in there, it was just a situation, I don't think I would ever forgiven him or given him grace in the way that I have. And yeah, we're all humans, we make mistakes, but he deserves that. Because like you guys said, see, I'm listening to you guys too and taking it in. We're all human and we make mistakes. And yeah, it wasn't my fault and it was his fault in that situation. But yeah, I don't think I would have forgiven him if you guys were involved because I look at you guys and I'm like, we all came from the same man, and the way he talks about you guys, it's said earlier, and I can tell he's a good dad and he did his best with you guys and he loves you guys. And you guys being my sisters, that deeply impacted me as well to forgive him and to love him as well. So thank you.
Yeah, of
Course,
course. Thank
yes.
you. I,
I-
I think it's amazing how, like you said, we came from the same origin, and then basically from that point, we're split or distanced, and it's just amazing that we're all here right now together. And whatever paths they looked like in your childhood or our upbringing, we are all alive somehow and
I'm
here,
shocked.
and we all love each other. And like, I think of all the siblings who have feuds and don't talk to each other, or they just have all this bad blood, and I've never felt any of that between us three, even though you would have your reasons, like you just said, where if it wasn't for us you might not have forgiven him. Or like, I was always scared, what if she did hate us? What if she did envy us? We did not have a childhood anyone should envy, but that dynamic of like, I was worried you would almost reject us in a way of like seeing us maybe robbed the life you wanted. But the fact that that was never there, and you've always shown us compassion and stuff and understanding, and like you've always reaffirmed us like it's not our fault, it's not your fault, it's just the way things played out. Given all of that, all I can be grateful for is like anything that's happened up until then, it has an impact on me, but it doesn't matter because all that matters is like we're all here now. That's what I've been trying to say is like,
Yeah.
we're all just like still trying and like still loving each other, and regardless of the past, I think that's what matters because that's what we're consciously putting effort and energy into now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I had a question for both of you. So we kind of talk about like our impacts with each other, finding out we're sisters, you guys having another sister. What about knowing about that you guys are aunts and having a nephew? How has that impacted your life, or what's your perspective on that?
Well, with like my aunts in my life, um, obviously the one of our dads that had passed away, I had never really met her. I've only met her a few times before she passed. And then I have two other aunts on our mom's side, and they all live like far away. So I'd see them at the holidays, and like on like family occasions sort of thing. Um, and I've gotten closer with like one of my aunts. And I actually love that I've gotten closer with them because they're not my mother, and they know who my mother is, but they're like different, kind of like how we're all like slightly different.
Mhm.
Um, so finding out I was an aunt, even though I was like young, I was like, I want to be someone that your son can like go to. Even if I'm not super close, I want him to be able to like trust me or like have me as another option in his life to go to, seeing as you're raising him on your own. And since I am the youngest, I feel like I could be well. Wait,
The fun aunt.
yeah, I'm the fun. No, I just when I
Oh,
found
you're
out,
drinking? We're at a party. We pick you up. Just
yeah,
kidding.
well, not to that extent, but something where he feels I want, especially now that he's growing up more and is able to like communicate with others. I want him to see me as someone in his life that cares about him because I know when I started getting closer with one of my aunts, I was like, oh, this is actually really nice. And I wish I could have gotten closer with the one that had passed because from what I've heard, she was cool as fuck.
I heard stories about her too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, being an aunt, I had friends growing up who were aunts, similar, like they'd have an older sister who had kids, so they were young aunts. We'd babysit them and stuff, and I always thought it was so cool that you could pour so much love into your sibling's child as if they were your own child. And even at a young age, I recognized that before meeting you. And I thought the only chance I'd have for that was when you have kids, which I don't know will happen. Now, obviously, meeting Oliver, and I've kind of come to terms with I might not or probably will not want my own children in life. It just makes me want to pour love, even more love, into the children in my life that do exist. And Oliver is definitely one of a kind, and he keeps everyone on their toes, and he's just so fun to interact with. And that obviously helps me want to continue being a part of his life because he's amazing. And yeah, I'm excited. If you do ever have kids, it'll be the same way where it's like, I want to love them as my own. And like Ken just said, be another outlet for them to come to throughout life and just offer unconditional love and support. Because Maddie does a great job at that already, but it's definitely nice to grow up knowing you have options and you have multiple streams of support and love. So hopefully we can provide that for him too.
I feel the exact same way with my little niece as well. So just watching her grow up has given me a different perspective on life, and it's kind of cool because you get to relive those moments when you were a kid, and you're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, sweet, I get to go take her to Roaring Springs and do fun stuff." And yeah, definitely like just building that trust, and that's very important. What you said, being somebody that they can they feel trusted and safe around, and someone that they can go to if they need help or um, need picked up from a party or something that the cops just got busted or whatever, and being there for them, I think is super cool, and it gives you like a new like sense of purpose in a way, because you're like in a way it is kind of like a parental role, but it's different because it's not as much responsibility, but it's also like it's cool. Very cool. I definitely 100% get where you guys are coming from. So, Uncle Kyle, Uncle,
Uncle.
yeah, Uncle, yeah.
Oliver does have a phone. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. He's covered. He's good.
that's cool. So, how many you have? Two brothers,
Yes.
two brothers, two sisters. Yeah.
That's crazy too. So I don't know what's going on in my family. Everybody likes to spread their seed, but so my sisters are here, right? We share the same father. Well, I grew up with a stepfather who is the biological father of my little brother. So he's my half brother. We have the same mother. If you guys are confused, I apologize. It was confusing for me for a while. So try to break this down. So 2016, I'm a new mom. I get a message on Facebook from this guy, and he's like, "Hey, do you know so and so?" Which was my stepdad, my dad. And I was like, "Yeah, that's my dad." And he's like, "Well, I'm his son." And I was like, "What the fuck?" So I call my mom, like, "Do you know this name?" And she's like, "Yeah." let me tell you a story. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? So like I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm a new mom. Um, I have two little sisters I've known about since I was 14. And now I have basically a big brother, Well, at least my little brother has a big brother that none of us knew about ever, who's older than me. So at the time I was 24, 25. He was like 30, in his 30s. So I was like, this is fucking crazy. So my stepdad that raised me got someone pregnant when he was 17. His parents found out, made him join the army, and he was dating my mom at the time as well. Yeah. So my mom, sorry mom, my mom was actually one who brought the papers to his mom to sign my dad's rights away to him because her new boyfriend wanted to adopt him. Crazy. Fucking Jerry Springer. So I'm just over here like, is there any more siblings out there? Yeah, I'm taking everybody. We're going on Maury, Jerry Springer, that other guy with the bald head. We're going on all those shows. Calling Oprah, everyone, because yeah, Dr. Phil. We need Dr. Phil too. I was just like, this is nuts. So yeah, I in total so far that I know of, and I'm hoping that's it because it's getting a little complicated. I have four siblings. So I have two brothers, two sisters, all halves, but they're all full in my heart. So blood is blood. Yeah, crazy stories, crazy shit.
That's crazy because that's actually super similar to my experience as well. Like my brother's 5 years older than me, and it was it was just something crazy. I didn't know, and I think he knew for a while. But he's really cool, a really cool person, and was a little intimidated at first. But the more I got to know him, and seeing like his life, and I've learned a shit ton from him, just from a little bit more experience that he has, and um, now it's to a point where can just like call him up and be like, hey, what would you do in this situation, or hey, do you have a reference for this specific thing, and yeah, it's really really cool, really really beneficial, and yeah, we were just hanging. He's in town currently right now, so we were hanging out last night and seeing the grandparents and stuff, and having a good time over there. And it's an interesting dynamic. It's really cool though too because like even though my dad didn't like accept him, I feel guilty in a way because I was like I grew up with my dad and like my dad didn't accept him when he was young, and so I feel like that kind of contributes to like how he is as a person now. But now it's like completely different. Everything's like in the open and everybody's so accepting and just like, hey, let's all hang out, let's go to dinner, let's see each other. So I guess that's kind of a cool thing now that I see. So yeah, very cool.
Spreading seed.
Spreading that seed.
Spreading love. Seed, man.
Seed of love.
Yeah.
Sowing the line. Making babies. Fuck.
Getting around all over the world apparently. Yeah.
Seriously. Spreading seed. Okay. Well, we have a couple more minutes left, so I did have a question in mind for everybody to kind of like short answer. Going forward with this related podcast, what we've been talking about going forward, everything that you learned and experienced in the future, whether you have kids or not, or whatever your goals or career goals are for the future, whatever, everything you learned from this experience and everything in between, how are you going to use that and apply it to your life? Either if you become a parent or a wife or a career woman or an aunt again or an uncle again. Well, need a minute to think about that.
I would say I'll go first. Yeah, I would say pretty much. I don't know. I think every episode's been pretty cool and eye opening as far as expanding a level of awareness of how you're showing up to people and how you affect people with like things you say or things you do, and that definitely has an effect. And so I would say for me, I want to become more emotionally intelligent or emotionally aware of how I'm feeling and how that's like affecting other people. So like when I have kids, I can raise them to be, very intelligent in that way, communicatively, emotionally, business, just like being able to teach them as much as possible, and then like making sure that I'm also growing as a person every single day so I can see, a better life for myself and my family growing up. And that's kind of what I'm taking away from all this, which is
Yeah, that's great. Emotional intelligence is definitely important, and people overlook that sometimes. And they almost see it as a weakness, so it's good to build it up instead. Um, this topic specifically for me has shown our choices in life do matter, and every choice we make makes an impact on our lives, butterfly effect, all that. But overall, there is like a natural course of the universe and like the way energy flows and whatever you want to call it or whatever science you want to use. I still think everything happens for a reason. And like we said throughout this hour with Maddie, is like the timing of things and like the things we feel and like the visions you had, all of that tied in together where it's like this was definitely meant to be. And when you have moments like that, it's really reassuring that you're on the right path. And overall for me, like, not to get morbid or intense, but like you are just another anchor now holding me down in this life, in this world, just preventing me from wanting to no longer be here or kill myself or whatever. That, we need to start seeing life in that way more of being grateful, remembering all the reasons why we're here, all the people who love us and need us, and how much we love them and need them, and that all of these things that are happening for a reason, both good or bad, are shaping us and helping us along our way. And just having that awareness without being too self-aware that you're being analytical or too, hard on yourself. But you still want to be responsible for yourself, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. And I think that's what we've all learned through a lot of this.
I think the thing I've taken away from this is just having like I didn't realize like I often forget I like actually have an impact on people's life, like small or bigger. Um, so especially since I live in a different country, um, I still want to carry like a good impact, and like how you guys carry an impact on me. I want to carry an impact on my like your son, and then like you guys. So wherever I go, I just like whatever happens, like good or bad, I like can tell you guys. And if it's something bad, and it's like a lesson, not so much me, but like when you guys tell me stuff that's going on with you, it impacts me in a way where I'm like, well, this is how they did it, and it helps teach me things. So I think I just want to keep like learning from all of our mistakes and just growing and impacting the future generations um, of us to be positive. So
hell yeah, love it. Awesome, cool. Well, thank you guys.
thank you.
Appreciate you being here today. Mm, thank you, Maddie.
Thank you guys.
And yeah, anything you want to say?
Off.
Yeah,
All right.
go for it.
I want to sign off saying I love you guys. I love all of you.
We
I
love
do.
you.
I love all of you. I love you, sissies. Thank you guys for coming in my life. Thank you for being who you are, unapologetically, genuinely, vulnerably. Is that even a word? Vulnerably. There we go. That's a word. Um, and thank you for like being in my life and my son's life. It means the world to me. You guys have helped me and healed me more than you know. And I am forever grateful for you. Both for you both. I'm grateful for you too, Kyle. I love you. So, we are the Heart to Heart podcast. We have not recorded a episode in like a month, so check it out. And we will try to be more consistent. But as we've been talking about this whole podcast, life and shit happens. So Thanks for listening to us, and we'll see you soon.
All right.